We begin our report more than 500 days into the invasion of Ukraine with a gathering of military allies in Eastern Europe for the NATO summit in Lithuania. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is there, pushing to join the coalition. But member nations backing his country's military will not give him the support he asked for on this matter. CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes is covering the talks.
Thanks, Lithuania.
Dozens of world leaders in town, but only one got a reception like this. And yet all the love did not make up for the one thing Ukraine's leader really wants: membership in the alliance meeting right down the road.
NATO
will give Ukraine security, he pleaded. Ukraine will make NATO stronger. NATO leaders did offer a consolation prize today that they billed as a major breakthrough. Ukraine's future is in NATO, they announced, but only after the nation makes democratic and security sector reforms.
This is a big step.
Zelenskyy called it absurd to place vague new conditions on Ukraine without setting a membership timetable. But some NATO allies worry that could draw them into direct confrontation with Russia.
How soon would you like to see Ukraine become a member of NATO?
I can't put a timetable on it for you.
NATO countries are making other promises. France is offering long-range missiles, Germany 65 tanks and armored vehicles, and 11 nations will start training Ukrainian pilots to fly F-16s.
How long is that training going to take?
Pentagon Undersecretary Colin Kahl.
We're talking about, somewhere between 6 and 18 months, depending on how well the Ukrainian pilots do.
And Nancy Cordes joins me now. Nancy, President Biden and President Zelenskyy are expected to meet Wednesday in Lithuania. What is that conversation likely to be centered around?
Well, clearly, President Zelenskyy has some concerns about this new announcement by NATO leaders that his country will be part of NATO someday. But the announcement doesn't put any kind of timeline on it. It simply says that that Ukraine is going to have to meet some requirements for democratic reforms, for security reforms. But what Zelenskyy is really seeking is the certainty that at a time in the future that ideally would be laid out for him, Ukraine can join NATO. And that's a certainty. NATO leaders said to us today, look, that's just not how NATO works. We don't put out a timeline for anyone, particularly in this situation where Ukraine is still engaged in a war with Russia, and NATO countries don't want to get dragged into that war. So that's likely to come up. They will undoubtedly talk about Ukraine's counteroffensive, where it's working, where it isn't, and, of course, what kinds of artillery, what kinds of weaponry Ukraine needs that it isn't getting right now.
The United States plays an oversized role in NATO, and we saw it in President Biden's working to get Sweden in. And what are U.S. officials saying, or are they saying anything about what Ukraine should take away from what NATO has said about joining? In other words, they're not getting a timeline, but are U.S. officials giving Ukraine any indication that, once the invasion is over, then there is a path? Are they sending signals behind the scenes?
Yes, they're basically saying read between the lines. They say that the statement that they put out today is the farthest they've ever gone when it comes to Ukraine. And that not only that, but that while they're setting out some requirements for Ukraine, they're willing to help Ukraine meet those requirements. And in fact, when it comes to military interoperability, which is something that is always a requirement for a country that wants to join NATO, it needs to modernize its military so that if it needed to, it could work more seamlessly with other NATO countries. Actually, they say Ukraine has made huge strides in that area in the past year and a half because it has been given all of this NATO weaponry, and it's been working so closely with its NATO allies. So they argued today that actually Ukraine is much closer to NATO membership and qualifying than it was before, and they're willing to get Ukraine across the finish line. They just don't want to send a signal to Vladimir Putin that Ukraine is going to become a member on X date, because they worry that that would encourage Putin to prolong the war to prevent that from happening.
So if Ukraine is the main discussion at NATO, a secondary discussion, of course, was accession of Sweden. Turkey's President Erdogan supported Sweden's accession to NATO, which was something that President Biden wanted, and Erdogan would like some F-16 fighter jets from the United States. What did administration officials say about whether that's likely to happen or not now that Erdogan has done what they wanted on Sweden?
You know, administration officials, John, have been kind of half-heartedly making the case from time to time that there's no link between Turkey's desire for American F-16s and its willingness to step out of the way so that Sweden could join NATO. Obviously, there is a relationship. Those two things have been discussed in tandem between Turkey and U.S. officials many times. But the case that Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, made to us today is that President Biden himself has supported selling these billions of dollars worth of F-16s to Turkey for some time. But there are members of Congress who have stood in the way because they don't like that Turkey is standing in the way of NATO accepting Sweden as a member. And so now that Turkey is agreeing to let that membership go forward, voila, you're starting to hear from those members of Congress that maybe they will be okay with that sale after all. A little bit of diplomacy here where everybody seems to have gotten what they wanted.
Nancy Cordes helping us track the chess pieces in Vilnius, Lithuania. Thanks so much, Nancy.
You're welcome, John.